Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's divisional week. We had a wild card week. Zach is still on his mission trip. So we have our special co-host, substitute teacher, Andrew Flanagan, representing the Packers.
Uh,
As you guys probably know, the wild card weekend was great. I mean, the only really there was two like games that weren't really close in Kansas City and Tampa. But other than that, great weekend of football, and we have another one good coming up. I mean, let's just go and straight jump into the headlines with the first one, which Andy has plenty to talk about. Is Packers shock the Cowboys, and I mean, same old Cowboys, man. Every year, every year,
yeah,
you think they say they can make the Super Bowl and all yada 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 yada. And they were down 27 to nothing, and then what was it, 48-16? So, I mean,
yeah. And then, so here's what happened. I was a little bit disappointed. Not really with, I, I mean, it's just kind of like the Cowboys decided to go ahead and leave. They were down 42-16, and we put Sean Clifford and all of our other like second and third stringers in. And then the Cowboys left their starting offense on the field with our like third string defense and scored a couple touchdowns. And everyone was like, "Oh, look at this!" And then we sent our real defense back out there and stopped them. And it was like, I mean, it was just kind of one of those things where I was like, "Can you guys just get the game over with?" Because it seems like they've had issues with that in the past where they're up and then the defense kind of sells out. But hey, Joe Barry's been fighting for his life the past 3 weeks, and I mean he's called some pretty
I
good
mean,
games.
yeah, I mean, holding them before you took the starters out. Well, I think it was 14 points or something, 16.
Yeah,
And I mean, you guys were up
something very
27
low.
nothing, and then I mean, they came back a little bit. Then you put it back out of reach. So, I all
Yeah,
around, it's been, I mean, good game plan for on the Packers. And I mean, I don't know what to deal with this Cowboys team. People are saying clean house, get rid of Dak, get rid of McCarthy. I don't know what to do
well,
with the Cowboys. That I just know that the thing they try the same thing every year and it doesn't work. So they need to fix something down there. I'm not sure what it is, but like they can't just like have the same players and think that there's going to be a different result again.
yeah, I don't think Mike McCarthy is a great coach, to be honest. Um,
And he won
you
you a
know,
Super
we
Bowl.
he did well, I'd say Aaron Rodgers and Clay Matthews won us a Super Bowl, but um, yeah, he was the coach during that time. He had a I mean, he didn't do bad, but like towards the end of his days with the Packers, it was like, okay, this is getting ugly. I mean, have we ever seen Mike McCarthy coach without an MVP caliber quarterback? Or like, at least Dak was in those talks at some point this season, and Rodgers is obviously an MVP. Um, so it's just kind of one of those things. Like, would Mike McCarthy still have a job if he had coached like the Cardinals or something this year, you know? Um, I think it's time to move on. I was really shocked that they already hadn't made Dan Quinn the head coach, and then the Packers went out and hung like 49 points on him. So I don't know if he'll get that position anymore. Um, it seems like the Cowboys, funny enough, always have cornerbacks who are really good at interceptions, but just can't play corner other than that. Um, and I mean, yeah, the Packers were wheeling. They came out firing. That's what they have to do. They changed to a vertical down the field threat about halfway through the season. It started working. Also, that is Aaron Jones' second home. In the past two games at AT&T Stadium, he has scored 7 total touchdowns. So, I mean, that's 3.5 a game. That's better than any Cowboys player.
Yeah, I
So
mean
that's
yeah.
just something to consider also.
He owns Dallas.
Yeah.
The
He's
Packers own
from
Dallas,
he's
and
from Texas,
yeah,
so
so he's gonna be
it's a
showing up.
homecoming game for him.
But I think the biggest, even though that was the biggest upset. That's why I had it first. But I
Yeah.
think the biggest storyline is the Lions win the first playoff game in like I think it was 32 years. I
Yeah,
mean
32.
that give credit to the Rams as well because that was a great game.
Yeah, it was. That was
They
probably the only game that was enjoyable to just like it wasn't a blowout completely, you know, of this past week. Because I mean, the Packers and Cowboys blowout, the Chiefs and Dolphins. We'll get to that later. That was a snooze fest. The
yeah
Texans
I
killed the
don't
Browns.
yeah thinking about it, it was they were all blowouts except
So
this one.
they
I don't
were
know what
in
I
the
was thinking earlier.
yeah, so I mean, this was really the only good game and it like of course it's Detroit versus Matt Stafford. Um which holy crap. Who is pretty dang good at football. Um he like just him doing that in the playoffs against a high caliber defense in Detroit as a rookie on the road. That's pretty incredible stuff.
Yeah, and I mean Matthew Stafford, he played a great game. I mean
Yeah,
his
he was
throws were
balling.
on the money. It's just
Yeah.
their defense. I mean, it was 17-21 going into half, and if you would have, I think if you would have told either of us, the final score would have been 23-24. We would have thought both quarterbacks got hurt based on the way the
Yeah.
offenses were playing. The defenses showed up in the second half. Um, but I mean, credit to the Rams and being able to fight back time and time again. But I mean, the Lions, they're not the same old Lions. I mean, they're
They
winning
deserved it.
games.
They
Hey,
deserved
and
this win.
yeah, they played great. Even though I said their defense isn't the greatest, they got some good pieces on their defense, but like altogether their defense isn't the greatest. They showed up when it mattered. They won a playoff game and they got another home game this week after with the Cowboys losing. So I mean, these Lions they got a shot to make some noise. I don't think they're looking just for a one and done. They're trying to get as far as they possibly can, and I don't see why they can't. So
Yeah.
I
Trying to
mean.
give the good people of Detroit something with
I
the
mean, they
Pistons
had a
being
great
as bad
week.
as they
They
are.
they had a Michigan fans. I mean, you didn't know I'm a Michigan fan, but I'm not a Lions fan. They've had a great week of football last week,
Yeah,
and
up there in Detroit.
I
This
mean,
might
this
be
this is
the
a good
best
month of
football year
January.
of your dad's life.
Yeah, yeah, but moving on to you mentioned it. C.J. Stroud and the Texans rout the Cleveland Browns, and last week on the pod, Zach was
Brutal game.
Zach was confident. And obviously, we all know what happened. But I said the one thing that I was concerned about was what happens if Joe Flacco sucks. He had
Yeah.
his game stretch like everyone else, but then he throws really to seal the game. I mean, they were down 10, 14-24, and it didn't look like they were getting a stop anytime soon. But on back-to-back drives, he threw pick sixes to really put the game out of reach there. And like I said, how would the team respond if Joe Flacco just starts not being able to sling the rock and has a bad game? Who can they rely on? But it would like they couldn't rely on anyone. Their defense couldn't get a stop against this Texas offense. I mean, CJ Stroud is dealing, and I'm hearing on other analysts saying he's already a top five quarterback in the league. I think that's a little too far stretched, but I mean, he's close. Shoot. I think he's top at this rate, he may be top 10. I don't think he's top five yet, but I mean, he is balling. And then, I mean, obviously, Joe Flacco just came out in the second half thrown to the other team. So that didn't go well. The
Yeah.
Browns, they had a lot of injuries. I mean, obviously, their backfield was missing. Um, People were in and out, and I think they'll be back next year, reloaded. But I think this was a disappointing end for the city of Cleveland. But I mean, city of Houston is rejoicing right now after seeing what they're seeing out of their young core, and they are very young as well. I mean, so they got a long road ahead of them. Are like a good.
Yeah. I mean, so this is kind of like two big takeaways. The Texans' future is bright and the Browns' future is not bright. Um, The reason I say that is because, well, the Texans have CJ Stroud, they have D'Amico Ryans, who's a turned out to be a great coach. Formerly the San Francisco D coordinator, so I already knew, okay, this guy's um
Good.
good. Will Anderson Jr. has been having a very quiet but good rookie season for the Texans after they traded up to draft him at third overall. But yeah, Stroud looked great. Tank Dell's been hurt, correct?
Yeah,
This
Dell's
whole
out for this.
season.
Dell's out for the
He was out
year.
for the season since like a couple weeks ago. So I mean, like he was another rookie. They've got really good young talent,
And
and it
Nico
seems like they have a
Collins
coach.
has.
Yeah, and Nico Collins is emerging. Um, so they got good young talent. It's just putting it all together, and I think thankfully that they now have a coach that can do that. Um, and then on the other side for Cleveland, feel bad for them. They've got themselves in a bad contract situation with Deshaun Watson. Um, he got a contract from when he was good at playing football, and that contract is still there. Um, just watching him play earlier this season was just like, man, I don't know that this is necessarily the answer for Cleveland. Um, I mean, he's not terrible by any means, but maybe the sample size isn't big enough um, from him to be show like to really be critical of that. So I think next season will be a huge like year for the Browns, especially with Nick Chubb. Like, will he even play next year? That leg injury was pretty scary. They've got a lot of good pieces. Definitely on the defensive side of the ball, the offense. Um, I mean, I know the line was banged up, but I think offense is the biggest question. And I know like you have the answer of Deshaun Watson at quarterback, but I mean, it was kind of crazy how good Joe Flacco looked for that stretch there. So hats off to him. But yeah, I feel kind of for the Browns. They're kind of locked in a scary situation with money, at least for Deshaun. And I mean, I hope that he turns it around and starts balling and it's worth that contract. But from what we've seen as fans, it hasn't really looked super great.
Yeah, I mean, he did. I mean, his last game of the season, that against Baltimore, he was. It looked like he was about to turn things around. And then obviously the shoulder injury. So who knows how that affects him? But yeah, I think this because including Zach, Browns fans thought they had. I mean, they assumed they were playing Jacksonville, so I think they were like, "Oh yeah, we're automatically in the divisional." And then the
Right.
Jags blew it, and they were like, "Okay, we got to play Houston," but I still like our matchup. And then
Yeah.
it obviously played out how it did, where Joe, like I said, I thought against the Jags, Joe Flacco could have a really bad game and you could win, but CJ Stroud and that offense, the way they've been playing, I don't know. I still pick the Browns, but I was worried about Joe Flacco, and I think I was right to be because I mean he obviously played his worst game of the year in Cleveland, and it showed as they got routed by 30. So I mean at the end of the day, the Browns do have some upside with players coming back next year, but I agree. I don't. Will Deshaun be the same again? I don't. We don't know, but
We'll have to see. It'll be a fun year for the Browns, maybe. Just kind of to see where everything's at, as far as structure of the team. They were bad for so long, and now they've finally got that glimpse of hope, and it's just like, well, here we go. Let's see what's up, I
yeah,
guess, you know.
that's what we'll see. Only time will tell. And then moving on to another quarterback performance that a lot of people are talking about is that Tua disappeared in Kansas City. Now, the final score I believe was 26-7. It might as well have been 50-7.
Snooze fest.
I feel like if there was better
Ooh,
weather, uh, Kansas City would have hung 50 on them. Because I mean,
yeah.
that game, it sounds a little bit close. It was not at all. I mean, other than the one Tyreek Hill play that got them the 7 points of him just catching the ball, making a couple people miss, and then scoring, doing Tyreek Hill things, it was the Miami couldn't do anything. And they really fell off
Yeah,
this last couple weeks of the season, our regular season going into the wild card, and
mhm.
it showed.
Yeah, I mean, I like how you said disappeared just because when you have an offense that puts up 70 in a game to 7 in the playoffs, now I get one was in Miami, Florida, the other one's in Kansas City, Missouri. It's kind of crazy. And it's kind of like, wait, this is like a really high-powered Dolphins offense, like, everything's coming together, and then all of a sudden they put up 7. And now credit to Kansas City's defense. I believe they're rated near at least the top defenses in the league. I believe that they're the youngest. So Steve Spagnuolo over there has done a tremendous job coaching up this group as he always does. Um, the Chiefs, they do kick it into an extra gear during the playoffs. And I know that it's like I wouldn't say that they're the same Chiefs as they were, just because it's like how do you be that same uh group? I don't know that you can necessarily perfectly replicate a Super Bowl winning team. Um, and they definitely had more flaws this year. They definitely looked worse this year than they had in the past couple years. And that's mainly just like, I don't know, it seems like Mahomes and Kelsey haven't been clicking. And there's just the lack of receivers, um, like prominent star receivers over there in Kansas City, um, has tremendously declined. So I it'll be interesting to see. I know that this is the first ever road playoff game for Mahomes, so that should be a fun one to watch. Um, as it's in Buffalo this week. But yeah, I mean, I kind of expected I expected the Chiefs to win. I didn't think it would be like this. As I said, the game was a snooze fest, and it was just one of those games that's like I don't even know why this is on at this point,
Yep.
just because the Chiefs were winning, the Dolphins could not move. And so it was just one of those games. It's like, well, it is what it is.
And on paper, this game offensively sounds amazing. But
Yeah.
factor the what like when we were recording last week, I picked the Dolphins and we hit it was way like we it was before we found out that it was going to be like -30. So then I wanted I like it was just awful. I picked the Dolphins and it looked
Yeah.
terrible because they did not show up. And I
Yeah.
thought they would have a sh shot to match them offensively and with their defense being good and seeing how they haven't. Because Kansas City, I don't know if you've on Christmas Day they struggled to put the ball in the end zone against the Bengals. They struggled to put the ball in the end zone. They kicked field goals and they did the same against the Dolphins. So they're settling for too many field goals right now. And field goals they get you points, but they don't win you games. When you're in the red zone and that close, you got to be able to put 7 on the board. So that's a little thing to watch out. But I mean, the Chiefs were dominant, and you can't take that away from them because I mean, not Miami wasn't the only one dealing with the weather. So
Yeah. I mean, Miami was not the only one dealing with the weather. These football games are just not really fun for anyone. When it's that cold, like obviously it's fun to be like, oh yeah, they're playing in like a lot of snow, or yeah, they're playing in a lot of rain. Like that's kind of cool. But when it's just like just bleak and cold like that, it's just not really fun football for the players, I'd imagine, and for the fans watching it. It's just kind of like not as entertaining.
yeah,
Um, but I mean, the Chiefs did it. It's pretty interesting. We'll see all four division winners next week in the divisional round in the AFC.
oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that, but that's funny how that shaped out. And is it other than the Packers? It's almost Packers are the only division. like non-divisional winner in the divisional,
Yeah,
which is I
yeah.
I think that that usually doesn't happen, so that's kind of interesting. But moving on to, I wanted to combine these two because I mean both of these, they both happened on Monday. Bills beat the Steelers 31-17, and then the Bucks rout the Eagles, which Zach said, I mean, called this pretty much on point because the Eagles, I thought they'd eventually have to change and show up and adjust after starting 10 and
Yeah.
1. But man, did they suck. They couldn't they struggled with the Bucks sending five or six almost every play, and they could not tackle for their lives. Because I mean, I think it was Trey Palmer on that one touchdown. He ran a curl, broke the tackle, and then just ran right in between the other corner and the safety for like a 60-yard touchdown. Like four people missed
Yeah, I
tackles
saw
on that
that.
play. Like it this I mean, he got to start worrying after the fall that they've had. I mean, they've lost I think 6 of 7. So what, and obviously are no longer in the postseason. But I think you got to give credit to Todd Bowles, Baker Mayfield, and the Bucks defense at the same time because they're balling right now. They had a little rough patch, and then they went into Green Bay. We saw they did to you guys, and then they obviously continued that. They choked up against the Saints, but I mean they had a really good game plan, and then obviously the Bills. Josh Allen playoff. Josh Allen is back. He did not turn the ball over once, and then I mean Mason Rudolph.
Yeah, with the Bills and the Bucks, both this week, I think they just kind of went out there and proved that they belong. I personally did not have that much faith in the Bills from what I had seen in the early part of the season. I came on here and I was like, the Dolphins have the AFC East. It's their division now. I thought the Bills were done. The Bills proved me and a lot of people wrong. Um, I didn't have much hope that the Steelers were gonna win. Um, playing Mason Rudolph, who's usually a backup, starting in a playoff game isn't generally a
I
recipe
don't
for
know why they
success
didn't go back to
on
Kenny
the
Pickett.
road. I mean, they've got to figure something out. It's been bad since Big Ben retired over there at quarterback. And then with the Bucks, I mean, we knew they were good. They had a hiccup against the Saints a couple weeks ago, but I mean, they got the Eagles. I think the biggest question left on this table after this week, from at least those two Monday night games, is what is going to happen with Philly. Um, like they were a fun, good team. They looked like they were the top dog for most of the season, and then like the wheels just kind of fell off. So I guess we'll see what's up with them as the year next season goes on, and it should be a fun one. But yeah, those were two games that kind of went how I thought that they would go.
Yeah, like I said, I did not. I thought the Eagles would show up eventually, but they proved me wrong. And then, I mean, the Steelers, Mike Tomlin, ever since, for like the past 6, 7 years, they've just been like a get in the playoffs and then lose type of deal. Like their Super Bowl was getting to the playoffs in Pittsburgh, and I don't think the fan base is kind of done with it. So, but I mean, it came out that Mike Tomlin should be back next year, so who knows what happens? But I think it's time to talk about these divisional matchups. Because I mean, on paper, these all are probably going to be great games. At least it's looking that way. And starting off with CJ Stroud facing the number one team in the NFL in the regular season, the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore. Lamar Jackson in this offense is rolling, and so is the defense. And I think they are able. I mean, I could see CJ Stroud and the Texans starting off quick, getting a maybe 10-point lead, 10, 14-point lead, and then the Ravens just slowing the game down, uh, taking the life out of the Texans because they played week 1 of this regular season. But I think the Ravens will they may have a slow start, but they will definitely take control of this game in classic hardball fashion and slow the game down, play on their own terms, and I think they'll end up winning this by 1 or 2 possessions.
Yeah, I've got the Ravens also. I mean, honestly, I think they're the better team. I mean, the Texans have a good chance. Like they have a real
Yeah, they
shot
have a shot.
here. Like they're if they won, I'd be surprised, but I wouldn't it wouldn't be like, "Oh, I never thought that this could happen." Because it's definitely one of those things. It's like, there's a good chance that this is that they can win this game. Um, I think the Ravens are pretty good though. They've got a lot of star power, a lot of heavy hitting going into this matchup. Um, I mean, mainly the thing I'll be looking out for with them is can they, like you said, can they get going and get going early? Um, but last time there was a playoff game in Baltimore, I believe, was when, or at least last time they were a 1 seed was when they got upset by the Titans at home. So hopefully that narrative uh now changes and they don't get upset for Ravens fans. But yeah, I've got Baltimore. I said about halfway through the season, I was like, yeah, they look like they're gonna win a Super Bowl this year. They just look poised. They went out there and got it every single game. So that's my pick for this one.
Yeah, I think most of America is going to go at Ravens this one, and because I mean, they've been the best team in 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 the league this year, and no one's questioned that these last couple weeks after the wins they put together. And I mean, I don't know how much this week off will impact them, but I don't think it'll be that much. I think they'll be able to get the job done. But this next game is very interesting. 49ers Packers. Now, other than the Baltimore game, the 49ers have been rolling recently. I mean, they
Yeah,
did lose to Los Angeles on the
that
Rams,
that
but
wasn't
but
really
yeah, they had their backups in and everything. So we've seen what happens when Joel Berry does not do put together a good game plan, or this defense doesn't show up, and it's been brutal. Yeah, I mean, we've seen it with the Buccaneers. We've seen it with what was the game before that you guys lost?
Giants.
Giants, yeah. And we've seen this time and time again, and I don't trust Joel Berry to put have another game. He's been fighting for his life. Maybe he's done enough to keep his job, but I don't think one, the offense will put up the same amount of points as they did against Dallas. And I think this 49ers team is way too talented. The system is way too good that they have built there. I think the 49ers, I think they kind of run away with this one and win by it. It may be close for a half, but I don't know. I'm not very confident in your Packers this week, Andy. I got the 49ers win by a couple possessions.
Well, all of America picked against us last week, and they're all picking against us this week. So we'll just have to see what happens. Um, I'm obviously going Packers. I'm not picking the Niners. And here's why. I think that if the Packers do a couple things right, this is their key to victories. Now, the 49ers, their keys to victory are very simple. Just play the same football you've played all year. Um, First thing, they have to make Brock Purdy uncomfortable and get him off his timing. Um, that was huge in the Baltimore game. That was the worst game he's ever played. If the Packers can somewhat replicate what the Ravens did, that's how they get a chance. You have to slow that offense down. Two, do exactly what you did in Dallas and just go out firing. All the big games that they've played in this year, they've gone out firing. They've hit the other team in the mouth a little bit, and once they smell blood, they've they've just gone after it. Um, and then another key thing I think is Aaron Jones. He's been back. His past 3 or 4 games now have been all 100-yard performances with multiple touchdowns throughout those weeks combined. So I think that there are certain things that they can do to win this game. Um, and ultimately, Jordan Love has to ball out again. I mean, he just has to play like nearly identical to the way that he played against Dallas and the way he's been playing. For us to have a shot at winning this game. It's definitely possible. It's not easy. But I f- I think that the 49ers definitely I'd say we would lose this game more than I would have said last week that we lost the Dallas game, just because I don't really think Dallas was that good. They showed a lot more signs of weakness and cracks in the armor. Um, but at the end of the day, the 49ers are a very good football team. But yeah, I'm gonna roll with the Packers. I'm not picking against them.
Yeah, and I don't
I
I
know
don't
that the
think
the odds are heavily stacked, but if there's any team that's gonna pull out something stupid like this, it's gonna be the Green Bay Packers. I think that we've learned that.
yeah, and I mean they definitely have a chance. It's they I feel I agree with you. They had a bigger chance last week because I mean we saw Packers and Cowboys and we're like, "Ooh, that that could go Green Bay's way." Like we were all like thinking that, but I don't me and Zach weren't really bold enough to go for it last week. But this week I think the 49ers are just built different. I think that there's a reason they are the number one seed in the NFC. So we'll see, but I think the 49ers will get it done, but I don't think anyone blames you for picking the Packers. But this next game, next NFC, the two NFC games are really interesting because we got Bucks traveling to Detroit to face the Lions. Now, could you imagine if the Buccaneers had to go travel to a place like the Big House or something where Detroit was playing outside, where they had to go through that Michigan weather? Like the Bucks would be struggling, but it is in Ford Field. It's inside, as we all know. Don't think it
They
matters.
so, a reporter asked Todd Bowles that question. He
Yeah,
was like, he saw that he was like, well, what do you think the weather effect will be like for the team during the travel to Detroit? And he was like, we're playing inside. Like they have a dome.
yeah, yeah. It would be crazy if Detroit played outside, because we've seen
Oh
Michigan in
yeah.
November. Imagine Michigan in January and February outside, but it is in Ford Field. But I don't think it matters. I believe in this Detroit team. The only key, the thing that worries me is the Bucks like to pressure a lot, and that's the way to stop Jared Goff right now. It's if he has gets in if he's in a clean pocket, he'll pick you apart all day. We've seen that numerous
Yeah.
times this year. The key is can you get him have happy feet in the pocket or affect his rhythm. That's when he starts throwing interceptions, fumbling, not making the best throws. But I think the Lions showed one thing is that they were very physical against the Rams. I would even say they were more physical than the Rams, and no one saw that coming with the Rams D line. So I think the Lions will adjust. They'll maybe keep Gibbs or Montgomery in the pocket and let Jared Goff sling it. Because I mean, Amara St. Brown is unreal. This Lions offense really is. I think they. I think this was almost a type of shootout like the Rams one because the Bucks have been rolling as well. But I think I'm gonna have to go with home field in Detroit. And I think if this was in Tampa, I'd give it to Tampa. But since it's in Detroit, I'd give it to the Lions because it really is that close.
Yeah. Um, it's kind of cool. The Lions having another uh home playoff game. I think everybody but myself really is rooting for Detroit. Um, like if Detroit won, if any team in our division won a Super Bowl besides the Packers, I would have to choose Detroit. Just because my entire life Detroit has been terrible. And it was like you lost to Detroit and now it's like, oh, you lost to Detroit. They're pretty good. Um, which is really a testament to Dan Campbell and his character and how he's completely flipped this script. Um, so I think that the Bucks, I almost said the Bakes, Baker Mayfield. Um, yeah, he has to play his best football all season. This is going to be a very tough team. Um, you know, they can win. I don't. I think that the Rams were better. I think the Rams were better than the Buccaneers. And I think they went in there and lost, and that shows that I think the Lions are going to win this one. But like you said, it'll probably be close, a shootout. Both have good defenses. This one I could see being more of a grudge match than a shootout, just because of the level, the caliber of both of the defenses in this game. Um, yeah, but I hope it's a good one. Um, and it'd just be crazy if the Packers and Lions ended up
Yeah, I
playing in
was
the
about to
NFC
say
Championship in
that would
Detroit.
be that would
That
be
would
a
be
crazy.
that would be nuts. Um, so yeah, I got Detroit in this one. I think Goff has shown he's a good NFL quarterback at this point, and they have shown that they're a complete team.
Yeah, it's it's been pretty great. But moving on to the game that everyone's talking about, a rematch that
The big
feels like
one.
it happens every year pretty much, except for the Bengals eliminated the Bills last year, but who's counting? But Mahomes is going on the road this time. He is playing in Buffalo. Josh
Ooh.
Allen finally has the home field advantage in the playoffs, and I think the Bills win it. And I'm going to tell you why. Chiefs offense, they've been dominant, but not at the same time. They've been able to move the ball, but they can't get the ball in the end zone. Bucker kicked like 5 field goals last week. He kicked 5 against Cincinnati. They couldn't move the ball against Vegas and Raiders. And I think the Bills have a great defense. So, and I think they play the Chiefs enough where they have a game plan to counter Kelsey, Pacheco, and Mahomes. And we've said it all year, and it's been a problem. The Chiefs receivers just aren't good enough. They just flat out aren't good enough. And with the secondary that the Bills have, it's going to be a problem. The key for the Bills to win the game, and this is what I believe it will happen. Josh Allen cannot turn the ball over. He didn't turn the ball over last week. That's why they won. But we've seen games where he's turned the ball over 2 or 3 times. You can't do that now. And I think Josh Allen turns up in the playoffs and he won't be making the stupid crossbody Hail Mary throws in the second quarter that
Yeah.
he was doing in the regular season. I trust Josh Allen to play a complete game, a turnover free game, and I think he finally gets his playoff wish almost and beats Mahomes in Buffalo.
Yeah. Um, this one's interesting. This to me is more of a toss up. Because on one hand you have Mahomes and the Chiefs who are proven to be good. Then on the other hand you have uh Josh Allen and the Bills who only had a 2 possession win versus Pittsburgh. And I understand that they have a good defense, but I think that this Kansas City defense is just as good, if not better, and they also have a way better offense. It will be fun finally to see the Bills play this game at home. It seems like every time they have played this, they've been on the road in Arrowhead. Um, so I think I'm gonna go against the tide. I think I'm gonna pick the Chiefs for this one. Um, there's just something about the playoffs. Mahomes turns it up a little bit. Uh, I think that they find ways to get in the end zone in this one. And Kelsey, maybe he forgets about Taylor for 3 hours, locks into this game, and they get the win. But I'll go Chiefs here just to add some spice. I mean, really, to me, it's a coin flip. It could go either way. Um, it's in Buffalo, so it's probably leaning a little more Bills, but I'll go Chiefs here. It's just, I mean, I don't want them to win, but I think that there's a chance that they could, and they've proven to be winners in the playoffs.
Yeah, and it's very hard to go against Mahomes, especially how good he's been. His only playoff loss is in a championship, whether it be the conference championship or the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
But
this would be
so
the earliest he's been eliminated, so
yeah, so very interesting. But I think Josh Allen gets it done, and I mean, honestly, looking at all these games, I'm excited to watch every single one because
Yeah, it'll be a fun weekend.
all of them have their like own unique like interest in them. So I think this season has been pretty great, and I think the best is yet to come. So I'm looking forward to this week. I know Andy is seeing his Packers go out there, but Andy, do you got anything else more to add for divisional?
Well, thanks for having me. This might be the last time you guys see me this season. If not, I'll see you whenever I see you.
Yeah,
Maybe they'll
w-
have me on for a Super Bowl special. But
yeah,
if not, thanks for having me. Thanks for listening. If you stuck around and listened to us talk. But yeah, that's it.
yeah.
Go Pack, go.
We'll see you guys next week. It's we're unsure if Zach will be back, so maybe Andy will be back, and maybe for a Super Bowl special, as he said. We'll see. But thanks for tuning in, and I mean, enjoy your divisional weekend of football, and we'll see y'all next week. Peace.